Hey you guys, it's your boy Davion. Welcome to my channel, and today, man, we're gonna have an interesting conversation. And this is a really heavy conversation because it affects millions of people around the world, not just gays but straights, men, women, old and young. And this is the issue of HIV, more so when it comes to disclosure. There is a blogger by the name of Walter Lee Hampton. Some of you may or may not know him, but he's notorious on Facebook for speaking on a lot of social issues, but he does so in kind of a aggressive and radical way, which can tend to rub a lot of people wrong, because he's kind of unfiltered and a little bit insensitive, and so he ends up in a lot of controversy. So there's a recent incident that Mr. Walter Lee found himself in where he disclosed the HIV status of another young man, apparently who is HIV positive. Walter Lee apparently uploaded photos of this guy's medication and completely exposed him publicly. This has caused a really huge backlash, especially from the black LGBT community towards Walter Lee, whose head kind of always stays on somebody's platter, but certainly is on somebody's platter now. He might want to go into witness protection because people are really fuming from their domes. So I have not myself personally been keeping up with the storyline. I am not aware of every single detail. However, I did go and watch his initial video on his channel where he kind of spoke about the beginning of how everything happened. I'm not really sure how the chain of events occurred, but eventually Walter Lee was able to get a hold of some information that proved this guy's status and disclosed that information. I definitely have some mixed views about what he did. If he was going to take an action, if he was going to be motivated to do anything, if he felt compelled to step into the situation and to kind of make this person pump their brakes because he's concerned about the victims and the potential victims in the situation, then I would have personally preferred him to go to the law and do that. To kind of out this man's status on social media definitely is messy. It's not illegal because it's true information. The information is true, is factual. So there can be no consequences legally against Walter Lee for what he did. But I think that, you know, if he was going to take an action, I personally would have preferred him to do that in a way that had more of a chance of bringing justice to the scenario, because all that it has done is make Walter Lee look incredibly horrible. A lot of people don't like Walter Lee already, so there's a bias toward anything that he does. If you had to compare Walter Lee to someone, he would probably be the Kenya Moore of the show. Like, you know, Kenya Moore gets herself into trouble, but sometimes she is the victim in situations, but she's never recognized as that because people already have a hate and a disdain for her as a person, so they feel like she always get what she deserves, whether she's right or wrong. It's kind of the same scenario with Walter. I think sex is a two-way street. So this part is simple. If you have any respect or self-respect or any love for yourself and any love for any other human being, whether you know them personally or not, then obviously disclose anything that may affect anyone else, whether that be crabs, whether that be HIV, whether that be gonorrhea, syphilis, anything that is contagious and or can be transferred through sex or touch or any type of physical exchange is something that you should definitely tell those who are going to be in very, very, very close contact with you that information. That's the respectful and responsible thing to do. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And if you aren't ready to be upfront and honest about your status, then you need to go ahead and pursue counseling until you're strong enough to disclose your status, because you have to be responsible for what's happening to you, and you have to be responsible for how that relates to other people who you will be dealing with sexually and romantically. So that would be what I would say to people who are carrying anything. What I would say to people who are negative and aren't carrying STDs is it's also just as much of your responsibility to make sure that you are safe and that you have all the necessary information for you to go ahead and do what you do. So don't so much as rely on other people to be upfront and honest with you. In a day and age where you can go to the clinic, in a day and age in where there are HIV at-home tests, there's no reason for anyone to be in the unbeknownst in terms of somebody else's status. You guys can do an at-home test or go get tested together before you engage in sex. So make sure that you yourself are being just as responsible for your own sex life as you would expect somebody else to be. I personally am in a situation myself with a person who has been trying to hook up with me for about a year now. They are very attractive, in shape, nice looking guy, and this guy is positive, and I know for a fact that he's positive, and he says certain things to me that are very sexually engaging, and the type of sex that he's into would definitely put anyone at risk who would have that kind of sex with him, but he's yet to disclose his status to me. So because of that, I have no interest in pursuing a relationship sexually or romantically with him. I don't even participate in casual sex anyway. But because I know what I know, and he has yet to take ownership of what he know his truth is, I definitely would not be hooking up with him. And I feel bad because I know that because of the way that he looks, some other little gay guy is going to come along who's going to just be completely Google-eyed over how sexy he is, and it's going to allow this dude to penetrate them unprotected and continue the cycle of HIV. But at the end of the day, just like I have to take responsibility for my sex life, and I have to be mature enough to say no matter how sexy a person is, no matter how in the moment I am, it has to mean enough to me. My life has to mean enough to me to either make sure a condom is being used and or that we take the time to get tested together. And if people don't want to do that for themselves, then everybody just simply deserves the fate that they find themselves in. And that's just as simple as that. You know, it's unfortunate that there are things that we can do to avoid certain scenarios and we don't do that. But every man has to really grow up and has to be mature enough and love themselves enough to stay in their lane and to make sure that they have healthy practices in their life and to just be conscious and to have knowledge of. So in terms of Walter, what you did in my opinion was completely messy. I wouldn't have used social media as a way to enforce anything. If I really felt compelled to do something about this guy sleeping with other people unprotected, and you know, him being a manipulator and a deceiver and victimizing people and being a predator, I would have took it to the law if I was going to do anything, or I just would have stayed out of it and just really continue to use my platform to encourage people to strap up and go with your sexual partners to get tested and make sure that you know what you're doing and you know what's going in you or what you're putting in somebody else, and just make sure that you stay on top of your own health. I don't believe in partial accountability. I just think that everybody has to be as responsible as they can be when it comes to the issue of sex. We just all have roles as givers and receivers, and it's not enough to just simply trust people, because we know that people just can't be trusted. Not all people. Whether somebody is honest or not, it really doesn't matter. We're talking about your life here. So go the extra mile to use a condom, or go the extra mile to get tested and to make sure for yourself that you are not at risk for anything that you don't want to have to live with. I can understand why the LGBT community is upset at Walter. It has nothing to do with what Walter did. It just has to do with who Walter is, and people just don't like him in general. People just can't stand Walter. They think he's an attention whore. They think that he just spews a bunch of rhetoric. They don't like the way that he articulates himself. They don't agree with a lot of his views, and the way that he chooses to express himself puts him at odds of being very controversial. So I think this has a lot to do with how people feel about Walter personally, rather than what he actually did. I still understand why people are uncomfortable, but the truth is people should be upfront. And if you lie about anything, you give other people the right to tell the truth about you. So if you don't like what the truth is about you, then always be in control of what your truth is, and make sure that you are capitalizing and managing your truth well, and that you're managing that truth in a way to where other people can't even use it against you, because you're taking full responsibility for it. So unfortunately, you know, I'm sure this is not the way that this guy wanted to be outed. I'm not sure if it is or isn't true that he was trying to hook up with people unprotected. I don't know whether he was sharing his status or not. That is just according to Walter. I don't think this guy has spoken out yet about anything, so I'm not sure about those particular details. But If you're positive, just be honest. And for those of you who are negative, be responsible. There's no reason to not use a condom, and there's no excuse to not go get tested and find out for yourself. So those are my opinions, and you guys can let me know how you guys feel. I guess I understand on both ends. So it is what it is. May God bless you guys.